I'm Adam Hossemeyer. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Is anybody else super confused about all the new camera releases over the last few days? Because I sure am. The EOS R5 and R6 were announced, and everybody was super excited about it, and I was too. So I thought I was going to order one of those. Well, I started looking at the R5. When I got to looking at it, it was just pretty much not going to happen for me. That camera was not going to happen for me. The price was just way too high. And it wasn't necessarily the price of the camera. It's all the accessories that you'd have to have on top of that. You know, the CFS Express card. That's the extra, $500-600. And the reader is another $100. Anyway, just to use the camera was going to be an extra $500 to $600 on top of what the camera already was. So that camera was pretty much out for me. Plus, I wasn't going to be using about half of those features that it had anyway. The 8K RAW doesn't interest me. 8K, I'd probably never use that in any of these type videos. Something I would never use, but I did want something that would shoot 4K and have a good good quality stills image. But I just thought the R5 was just overkill for what I do. So I looked into the R6. It was looking really good, and I went ahead and placed a pre-order for it. 20 megapixel sensor, and I thought, well, that'll be good enough for hybrid shooting, kind of the stuff that I like to do. Plus it had really good 4K 60, which I use that a lot on the Panasonic here, and I thought that would be a good camera for me. But then reports slowly started coming out about the overheating problems that the R5 and the R6 had. I rarely ever shoot a video over 30 minutes. To me, the 30-minute record limit wasn't going to be just a huge deal. Like, I think I've only hit the record limit on my R like once or twice, just sitting down and talking to a camera forever. So I didn't think that the 30-minute record limit restriction was going to be a huge deal for me specifically. But when you start talking about overheating, that's when I got really kind of nervous about the camera. And not so much the overheating it while it's just taking video. Like, you turn it on, you start taking video, it runs for 30 minutes, and then it overheats. I could probably work around that. But the problem is the way I see it anyway, is if you're out taking pictures or you just have the camera on, it starts heating up. And then when you go to take your video, the amount of time you have to take video is reduced just by having the camera on or just by taking pictures. So now your 30 minutes of video before it overheats is down to 15 or 10. And that's just something that I decided that, hey, that's too big of a question mark for me. I can't continue with this pre-order because it's just too big of an unknown. All the videos that I've watched on YouTube they've tried to go into fairly good detail about the overheating, but I haven't seen enough on there to make me feel comfortable in ordering it and spending that much money on it. Of course, the R5, if it starts to overheat, you can switch down to the lower res 4K. But again, you're paying so many thousands of dollars for a camera, and you can't even shoot in the highest quality 4K. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to buy a camera that has known overheating problems anyway. I'm sure that'll work for a lot of people's workflow, but for me, when I go out, I just want a camera to work. I don't have time to be messing around with, is it going to overheat, managing this time, managing that time to keep it from overheating. That's just something I just don't want to mess with that. So the R6, I became really leery of the R6, specifically when I found out that the camera starts to overheat just by being turned on or just by taking photos. And if your camera starts to overheat, the R5, you can continue to shoot video in the lower resolution, but the R6, once it overheats, it's pretty much done. Maybe you can shoot in 1080. I don't know, but once you drop down to 1080, you might as well have just a regular R. So I don't know. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to be buying one of those two cameras with the overheating issues. A few days or a week or so after the EOS R was announced, here comes a Canon A7S III. By all means, looks like a great camera. It's not going to be the perfect hybrid camera with just 12 megapixels for stills. So I thought, well, I can just get the A7S III and then carry my A7 III around. If I want to take pictures, I can have the A7 III. But that's not going to work either. I've decided that too. Very rarely am I out doing just videos or just photos. Very rarely. Like I'll be going along, taking a bunch of photos, and then want to take some pictures. Just spur of the moment. Now I can go to my bag, switch lenses, switch cameras, all that, just to take a few pictures, then go back into my bag and get my video camera out. I mean, that's just not, that's not how it's going to work for me. Now, a lot of people, they're going to be super happy with the A7S III, and that's going to be a great camera for them, these guys that just do strictly video. But for me, I just don't know if that's going to work. I went ahead and pre-ordered it for now because I wanted to see. There's a couple of reviews coming out. One from a particular photographer on YouTube talking about the 12 megapixel camera as far as pictures go, and I do want to see that video because I pretty much respect his opinion. And if he says, hey, the 12 megapixels might be enough, because I really don't know if it is or not. I decided I want to wait to see his review on the 12 megapixel for still photography and see if it's a viable option to take pictures or not. Barring the 12 megapixels being just a great stills camera, I've pretty much decided I'm just going to go ahead and hold off for buying anything right now. Just doesn't seem, nothing seems that great or appealing to me just to haul off and spend a whole bunch of money switching to a camera that is really not going to be much more than what I already have. I want to wait, look at some of the reviews online, wait until everything kind of gets hashed out with the R5 and R6. Like right now, everything just seems to be kind of shrouded in mystery or something, you know, like you can't get just a straight answer from anybody. Like these tests, some tests are this, some tests are they're the exact opposite, and you're like, I don't know which one it is. It's so hard to get a good answer based on what people are doing. But once it starts, the cameras are released and just regular or normal people get the cameras in the hands, you'll be able to see a lot more about what's going on with the actual cameras. And by then, they'll probably release firmware updates to the cameras, at least one or two to hopefully rectify some of these situations. So I think the best thing to do on the R5 and the R6 is to wait. I think my R does a good enough job for me right now. I'm not really just gung-ho about going up and buying into the unknown of a camera that, I'm not really familiar with or not comfortable with working all the time. And like I say, the R takes great photos. The video is 1080p, which is, I don't know. I've come to the conclusion that it really doesn't matter just a whole lot. Anyway, I just think the resolution doesn't matter just a whole lot. It's more about the message anyway. But it is good to have 4K. I mean, if all my cameras shot great 4K all the time, that would be what I use. But the R doesn't, and the 1080p is what it has. And I like shooting the 1080p, so, and it's easier to edit for sure. It doesn't take up nearly as much memory. As far as A7S III goes, I got it on pre-order because the main reason I pre-ordered it is because once the Sony snowball starts rolling downhill, you're not going to be able to stop it. So if the camera turns out to be the best camera ever made for video and it does an adequate job at stills, there's going to be so many orders for that thing, you're not even going to be able to get one for months and months and months until after the release. So I went ahead and tried to pre-order one as quickly as possible to save my spot in line, just in case I want to go ahead and keep it. As of right now, I'm just not super, I just really don't know if I want to keep it or not. When I look at the cameras I have, I mean the G9, the only really downfall of the G9 is it doesn't have great autofocus. And the only time that I really see it falling down is when I do stuff like this, talking head type stuff. It'll probably warp in and out. Or if you're backlit, that's when it's really struggles, when you're seriously backlit. The G9 has everything that all these new cameras already have. They're making big claims about all these new cameras. The G9's had it forever. It just doesn't have 120p 4K, which is, I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to have, but it's not a make or break deal for me. Anyway, so if you're as confused about the whole camera situation and which way you should go, my suggestion would be just to hold off a little bit until some of the cameras are released into the public. You start getting actual reviews from people that actually use the camera, that just aren't out doing random tests and stuff. I mean, all these guys that get the camera early, they do a great job. But once more and more of them get released, you'll start getting a better picture of what's going on. Plus, by then, the firmware will be updated probably at least once, maybe twice. So you'll start to get really a good sense of how the camera is going to behave out in the field. Especially on the R5 and the R6, I would definitely wait on those two cameras before I made any final decisions. Like I say, the A7S III, judging by all the reviews online that I've seen, may or may not have an overheating problem. Some have said it does when it's out in the sun. Some have said they shot all day out in the sun and had no problems. I don't know. Who do you believe, But if you are interested in that camera at all, I would definitely get it on pre-order as soon as possible, because I remember the A7 III when it was released, it was on back order forever. The camera's popularity combined with all the COVID production things that are going on in the world right now, it's going to make that camera difficult to get once it gets going. So if you're interested in that camera at all, I would advise to go ahead and pre-order it. It doesn't come out until September. If something about it turns you off, you can always cancel that pre-order later on, hopefully move me up in the line a little bit. So anyway, that's my suggestions for the camera game right now. Gotta be patient. Thanks for watching.